Most of the women I connect with have an interesting connection with their bodies, and that's putting it mildly. It seems we either love her, hate her, or ignore her. And notice I didn't call my body an it, but rather her. I know I'm playing around with semantics, but personalizing my body helps me not keep her at arm's distance like an object. Our bodies are God created and God given and God breathed. Many of us have suffered various forms of trauma over the course of our lives, and our bodies store the memory of these traumas inside. That is why we don't want to ignore her messages. Today, I'm talking with Sarah Jackson, and we'll be discussing the idea of attuning to our bodies with awareness, understanding, and care. I'm Jem Fadling, and it's time for I Can Do That. If you remember from last month, I told you that about once a month I'm going to share an excerpt from one of the interviews inside Replenish, which is our new online coaching and community for women. Well, today is the day for an inspiring conversation with Sarah Jackson. The connection between our minds and our bodies is undeniable. And even though the scientific world confirms this, practically speaking, we don't always know how to make the most of this God-designed connection. Sarah is quite skilled at helping us make that connection. Sarah Jackson is a health coach and writer. She works with people navigating journeys of grief, trauma recovery, chronic illness, and limbic system retraining, and she writes about finding hope and healing in the darkness. She's the creator of a monthly virtual class and online membership called Restore. It's designed to help participants release stored stress and trauma, rewire their nervous systems, and step into soulful rest. You can learn more about Sarah at sarahjacksoncoaching.com, and you can connect with her on Instagram at sarahjacksoncoaching. Now, the question I asked Sarah and that she answers in this clip is this: share with us some of the dynamics of our nervous system and how we might become more attuned to its signals or messages. I know you're going to enjoy my interaction with Sarah. How can we become more attuned to what's happening if we haven't had much experience with this?
One of the things that I see with everyone that I work with, whether there are chronic health challenges, there's unresolved trauma, is there's an antagonistic relationship with the body. And maybe that feels like a bit of a strong word. It's not an obvious, explicit antagonism, but there's a push-pull where we feel frustrated with our bodies, where we ignore them or we dismiss the messages that they're sending, where we feel like the messages the body's sending is bad or are bad. And so I think the first thing that is a paradigm shifter. The framework within which we do all of this work is beginning to understand that your nervous system, your body, is for you. It is benevolent. It is wise. And in particular, your nervous system, one of its key jobs is to protect and preserve your emotional safety, your physical safety, your sense of dignity and inherent value, your sense of belonging, your connections. And if any of those things feels threatened, the nervous system perceives any of those things as threatened, it's going to send you messages: anxiety, overwhelm, even an emotional numbness or spaciness. There are a lot, pain, fatigue. There are a lot of ways that the body communicates that it's feeling under threat that are very unpleasant. Right? Anxiety doesn't feel good. Pain doesn't feel good. And because its messages are unpleasant, that's where then we can start to feel like the body is an enemy or it's a prison. And so there's this really incremental shift of beginning to think about the body differently. And it starts with knowing that God wired your nervous system to protect you. And these unpleasant sensations, thoughts, and feelings that are generated by the body in a survival state are the way that God intends to move you towards safety, felt dignity, belonging, and connection. And I talk a lot with my clients about attunement. I love that you use the word, how can we become more attuned to its messages and signals? Because if we want to turn toward the body as a friend, we want a very relational approach. And attunement is a relational word. You know, my sister had a baby, her first baby last year. And in the beginning, she was trying to assess, what do these cries mean? Is my baby hungry? Is my baby tired? Does my baby have a dirty diaper? She was attuning to the baby's cries. Attunement has 3 pieces: awareness. Okay, my baby's crying. And then understanding. She came as she was attuning over time to understand, when the cry is low and rumbly, my baby's hungry. When the cry is high pitched and frantic, it's a dirty diaper and the baby wants out now. And then in that place of understanding and awareness, she can best care for the baby. So awareness, understanding, and care. And so we want to bring that same approach to our own nervous system. So it starts with just becoming aware that the signals that feel unpleasant are benevolent messages, and they're deeply wise. And then there's a process of coming to understand what those messages mean. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to do that in a moment, so that we can turn toward it and care. And what care looks like is signaling safety to the nervous system, signaling dignity and inherent value, signaling connection and belonging to the nervous system. And there are a lot of ways we can do that. We can use our bodies, sensation and movement to do that. We can use our thoughts to do that. And then the way that we engage our behaviors and our relationships signal that. So the last piece that I think can be helpful in this framework of attunement is your different survival states have accompanying stories. Your body's going to generate a story that feels true depending on the state that it's in. So we start with what's called ventral vagal presence. This is regulation. This should be the body's baseline. This is where we feel calm, connected, and the story that's going to feel true is, I can do this. I have what it takes to face the stressors of my day. I'm resourced. My body feels resourced to do what it takes. The second state is fight or flight. We call this sympathetic activation. And in a state of fight or flight, your body's going to generate a story. The story that's going to feel true is, I have to do something about this now or else. I have to get through the list of to-dos now or else. I have to perfect this now or else. I have to lose the weight now or else. That's a fight or flight story. And what can happen is, fight or flight's a mobilizing state. Your body is literally preparing for you to fight or run. And so there's a lot of survival energy that's generated. That feels like anxiety. If you feel anxiety, you know there's survival energy. Sometimes the fight or flight state becomes so heightened, there's so much survival energy, it overwhelms the body. And the body goes, we're going to combust if we don't cool things off. And it pulls an emergency brake. That's when we start to move down into freeze, and then into something called dorsal vagal shutdown, a state of collapse, where the story in dorsal vagal shutdown is, I can't. I don't have what it takes. Overwhelm lives in shutdown. Spaciness, disconnection, sort of a feeling of flatlining lives in shutdown. So when we begin to understand those states, we begin to understand, oh, my body's wanting to run or fight. Oh, my body's shutting down. It's wanting in shutdown to curl up in the fetal position. And as we have a sense of its state, like with the baby's cries, my niece's cries, then we can better care for it.
Oh, that's a beautiful summary. And now that I've heard it a few times, it's really sinking in for me more and more. And I realize one of my go-tos is the sympathetic.
Yeah,
for sure. I get heightened and then anxious. And another reason I love talking to you about this is, we've talked about this before. This really goes hand in hand with the thought work that I'm working on right now, because we do craft a narrative. And it's also interesting to me that you said the words awareness, understanding, and care. And I feel like there's an overlay in my book, Hold That Thought. I have a practice called notice, discern, and respond. I feel like they really, isn't that interesting?
That's interesting.
Because aware is notice, right? Understanding is discernment, and care, of course, is a beautiful response, but caring is a response you can have. So I feel like, again, I'm finding an overlay in what we're sharing, because the verse that always comes to mind is that we are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Mhm.
Psalm 139 comes to my mind often when I have conversations like this with you, because I realize all the ways God has crafted us. But there's a beauty to it. And
Mhm.
the good news is we can learn.
Mhm.
We can learn to notice what's going on. We can learn to cooperate with the patterns and the processes and move toward, health in all the ways. It's
Mhm.
definitely a process, though. Well, I hope your understanding expanded a bit and that you found something helpful in Sarah's comments. Here's your I can do that for this week. Pause for just 1 minute right now if you can. Place one hand on your heart and one on your belly. Breathe deeply and just feel your connection to your own body. How might you turn your heart toward your body in attunement? How might your awareness, understanding, and care begin to grow even right now? Remember, you're making your way forward one small, simple, and gracious step at a time. Now, you can hear my entire conversation with Sarah when you join us in Replenish, online coaching and community for women. I talk with a lot of women, and common themes always emerge. Women want connection and belonging. They want coaching to support them on their journey, a break from their inner unhelpful thoughts, a safe place to share their hearts. And we want to be seen and heard without fixing or judgment. Well, I've pulled together an amazing team of women, including 2 other mentors and 9 more women who serve as contributors. We deeply desire to journey with you as you make your way. You do not have to go it alone. We'll mentor, coach, and support you in all the major areas of your life: spiritual, emotional, mental, relational, physical, and vocational. So join us in Replenish right now. Go to unhurriedliving.com/replenish, and I look forward to seeing you there.